Right, well, some of you might have seen the little cards at the entrance about the BTO Birds in Green Spaces, and we've got Jess Stokes coming to speak to us from the BTO about this excellent new survey that's being run. A little bit about Jess. Jess is a survey organiser within the terrestrial ecology team at the BTO, working on a range of both professional and volunteer-based surveys covering farmland, woodland and urban birds. Following her previous role carrying out ornithological surveys and monitoring on a number of protected species, in her current role she focuses on the organisation of both local and large-scale surveys. Jess is currently one of the leads on BTO's Birds in Green Spaces project, for which she has worked on developing project methodologies, the development of a brand new mobile phone app and a map of public access green spaces across the UK. So please welcome Jess.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Really excited to tell you all about BTO's latest citizen science project, Birds in Green Spaces. And thanks to Martin for his brief project intro earlier on. I don't have any pictures of green spaces in Hertfordshire. I don't have barely any green space pictures for the whole of the UK, so I'd really welcome any that anyone wants to share with us. And also I have left some leaflets on your table, I hope you don't mind. Without further ado, well, first of all, I just want to mention this project has been really generously funded by a gift in will from Dennis Summers-Smith, who is a long-term BTO member, and I'm going to talk more about Dennis towards the end of the presentation. So, first of all, some of you might be familiar with the project, but I thought it was good to start off with an overview of kind of why are we doing the project and how is it going to work. So, the project has three overarching aims. So, we want to find out the importance of UK green spaces for UK bird populations. We want to engage as many people as possible to get into their green spaces and record the birds they see, learn about them and connect with nature. And then we want to use the findings from the survey to be able to generate management guidance so that park managers, local authorities are better informed when it comes to making decisions that are going to benefit both birds and people. So we're going to do this through a survey of public green spaces, so this is things like parks, playing fields, cemeteries, village greens, and these are spaces that anyone and everyone can access. And we're going to collect the data through a really simple methodology. We simply want people to tell us which birds and how many of them they've seen in their green space. And then later on we're also going to be collecting habitat data, which is going to be key for building that connection between the management and the bird communities in these green spaces. Because we have such a simple methodology, this means we have a huge audience that can take part in this project. We're really keen to break down some of the barriers that might stop people from participating in other citizen science projects or from going out bird watching. And so, yeah, we're keeping it really simple and really flexible. And another way in which this project is really accessible is that it is UK-wide, so we're including Northern Ireland, also the Channel Islands and Isle of Man, and we're going to have thousands of sites, as you'll see later in the presentation, across this area. And the survey is going to run from April to June this year to coincide with the bird breeding season. So that's just a rough overview. I'm going to delve into all of these a little bit in more detail throughout the presentation. So first of all, I wanted to go into the why behind the project a little bit more. So I'm going to break down those three aims I mentioned. So the first aim is to, again, find out the importance of green spaces for UK bird populations, so which birds and how many of them are using and relying on these green spaces in built-up areas. So there's a bit of a gap in urban research. It's often seen to be kind of lower in biodiversity, so it's not always the focus. We have some previous BTO studies which have looked at urban areas, so we have Biodiversity in Glasgow, which is that logo on the left, and the London Bird Project, and these were both fairly short-term projects. So it's going to be really interesting to look at the data from Birds in Green Spaces and compare the numbers from these surveys which were carried out earlier in the 2000s to this year. And we obviously have lots of other citizen science surveys such as BBS, Garden Bird Watch and the Wetland Bird Survey, but these don't have an urban focus, and that's where this gap is. We need to collect data from across the UK on these urban spaces. These spaces might, well, urban areas in general might be seen as barriers, but as development is on the increase, it's really important that we consider the green spaces in these areas as kind of corridors, so helping build that connectivity with the wider landscape. So that is a really, really key reason for carrying out this project. And while there are lots of rare species you wouldn't find in built-up areas, some red-listed species, as Graham mentioned, swift, are quite heavily reliant on our built-up areas. So I just wanted to go into a couple of species trends. One of these graphs may look very familiar. So if we look on the left, so starling and wood pigeon, two generalist species with drastically different trends. So it's really important that we look at how these birds are doing in urban areas so we can really get that bigger picture and see, you know, which environments might be benefiting these birds or where there might be changes taking place which might be to their detriment. So it's really key for underpinning those trends. And then on the right we've got swift and house martin. While they're not breeding necessarily in these urban green spaces, they are going to be reliant on these green spaces for feeding in the airspace above them, for example. And so again, it just shows how important it is to understand the role of urban areas in these trends across these very threatened species. So our second aim is to use the findings to develop management guidance, not just that benefits people, but that benefits birds as well. So we're looking at doing this at a local level, so local authorities, kind of new housing developments, and we're in constant consultation with different stakeholders to find out what they want to know, where their gaps in knowledge are, so that we can make sure that we tailor our outputs to their needs. So this could be a range of different management suggestions. So these could be smaller scale decisions such as changes to mowing regimes, installation of nest boxes. These are things that smaller volunteer groups, friends groups could even get involved with, and they're not going to have a massive economic cost, whereas there are also larger scale decisions which might need some higher level management to be involved. But again, we want to give this range of different options so that people can make changes within the resource that they have available. And we also really want to allow people after the survey is finished to continue monitoring birds in their green spaces so they can identify any changes that might have occurred due to the management they've implemented as a result of the survey. And so I've got just a couple of examples of green spaces here. Sorry, my timer has just gone off. I'm just going to... So this first one, on first glance you might think, this is not somewhere I'm going to go and spend my morning bird watching. Doesn't look particularly exciting. And there are some ways in which it's probably not so good for birds. So we've got a large open area. This is going to be designated for dog walkers, perhaps sports activity. There's a kind of football goal post in the centre there. So we're limited in a way by what this green space is for. So by having this short uniform grass, this kind of limits opportunities for ground nesting birds because they don't have those kind of that mix of vegetation structure where they can nest in these areas, and the same for small mammals as well. So potentially not great for supporting small mammals that could support raptor populations. However, if we look more closely, we can see we've got this great kind of tree area around the edge of the green space. This is going to support a whole range of species for nesting and providing a range of food sources. And then if we look at this grass area, it can support a huge number of species, not necessarily for nesting, but for feeding, so gulls, corvids, thrushes, and maybe even waders like oyster catchers. So what might on the surface not seem like the most interesting green space to visit can actually give us some quite interesting data. And then the kind of complete opposite, we have Camberley Street National Park. I've visited this site, it's fantastic. It's near King's Cross Station. And as you can see, this is a kind of complete polar opposite. The main aim for this green space is to go there, connect with nature, maybe socialise as well. We've got a range of different habitats, including this aquatic area. So this is going to support a whole other range of species. And we've got a wide range of native plants, a very varied structure in terms of vegetation, and a mix of more open and enclosed areas. So that's going to support a really vast range of species. So looking at the third aim, we want to engage as many people as possible to get into their green spaces and learn about the birds in them, and of course record them. So green spaces play a huge number of roles for birds, nesting habitat, a wide range of food resources, particularly for those birds that are granivorous, fructivorous, and rely on invertebrates as well. And these can't be found in the wider built-up area. And as I said previously, when there is a water body present, this presents the opportunity for a whole other suite of species. But green spaces are also really important for social, cultural, health-related reasons for people, and one I want to point out is mental health benefits. So green spaces are really valuable for this, especially in urban areas where people aren't going to have that many opportunities to connect with nature, and this connection with nature has been shown to reduce the risk of a number of mental health conditions. So it's really important to take into account both of these needs when green space management is on the table. So I just wanted to go now into the method. So how are we going to collect this data? And I'm just going to start off by kind of highlighting our web page. So this is being updated more or less as we speak. So this is kind of the central hub for you to find all of the resources you'll need to be able to take part in the project. So simply going onto our web page and finding our taking part page, we're going to have a range of downloadable PDF instructions on there, as well as instructions on the web page and a video for how to use our app. Anything you need to know is going to be on this page. So, as I said previously, the methods we're using, we've tried to keep them really simple and to keep them really accessible for people. So we've got kind of two methods. So our main one is our survey. We've been calling it structured survey, but it does have quite a good level of flexibility. So this is our complete count. We want people to go into a green space and record all of the birds they observe. And this is going to give us that number data, tell us about diversity, abundance, and density of birds in these green spaces. And we're suggesting people carry out multiple visits so we can make sure we get the most complete data set we can. And this is open also to beginners as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little while when I get onto the Greenspaces app. We also have the quick record, which, while it doesn't give us information on numbers, is going to help us to complete those species lists. So if somebody is observing a bird that they didn't see during their survey, they can still record it. And it also offers a really low effort participation option if you're just walking through your green space on the way to work or on park run or something like that. So these combined are going to give us a really, really good data set. So I am going to give some sneak peeks of our new app, which is going to be coming out very, very soon. So this app is going to be, well, we've got a mobile phone app and a web app, so we want to give different options if you prefer to record your data in a certain way. And this is the first bespoke app BTO has had for a kind of finite project, so really excited to get people using this. And it's going to be available for iOS and Android, and you will access it through My BTO, so just registering for the project. And I'm just going to kind of go into specifically the mobile app and how simple it is to collect data. So you can collect your survey data in 3 simple steps. So if you have bird tracks, some elements of this might seem familiar, and if you are a bird track user, it will be a very seamless transition. But I'm sure I'll have some questions about this, about both of them towards the end of the presentation. So there are 3 steps to collecting your data with Birds and Greenspaces app. First of all, you will need to select your green space, and I'm going to get into that again in a few minutes. But we have thousands of green spaces on offer. there is no need to pre-register for a green space as you would with some of the other surveys, so with kind of WEBs and BBS where you're assigned a square. This is totally up to you. You can cover one or more green spaces, and any number of people can cover a given green space. So you'll choose your site, your date and time is automatically collected, and then it's as simple as adding your birds. So this is where we've introduced a lot of features to help specifically those people who are newer to birds, but this app is very customizable, so if you are very experienced, you can tailor it as well to your needs. So I just want to talk about 3 of the features that we've included to help people to build their skills. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the possible counts, which are in orange. So this is a really great way for people to contribute data without compromising the quality of the certain count. So it allows them to build their confidence adding these records, but we know they're not sure about it. I will say, people will do what they want to do as well. So even if you just have certain counts, people would probably sometimes record stuff they're not sure about. But with this, we allow them a nice space to add that data without feeling too much pressure. This is also really good for us, so we can look at that data across the board and see where there might be a species that lots of people are having trouble with, and we can then put out some tailored ID guidance for those species to help people. And also, in terms of how we're going to use this data, in many cases, we don't need to get to species level to see how the green spaces might be supporting a certain group. So if somebody submits, for example, a carrion crow, but they're kind of submitting it as a possible record, they're not sure, they're kind of new to birds, that might be a rook, I'm not sure, I think it's a carrion crow. This is still going to tell us a lot, and we'll be able to use this, this information in our analysis. Another feature is different bird lists. So if you're a bird track user, you'll probably know that there are many, many birds on there to choose from, and lots of subspecies and lots of different races of birds. If you're new to birding, this would probably be slightly terrifying. So we're allowing, we've got the option to show different lists. So if you just want to see those birds you're likely to see in a green space, then you can toggle off the kind of more scarce species and just choose from those common species. And we also have some simple bird facts for the most common species in green spaces as well, which you can access by clicking on the bird. But if you don't want any of that, you can toggle off the pictures, toggle off the possible counts, and just see a really simple interface that allows you to just add your counts. So it's really flexible, and if anyone wants to have a look afterwards, I'm happy to kind of show you that with the app itself. Green space sites, so just to give a bit of an overview of what we're counting as green spaces. So these are going to be publicly accessible sites, so again, parks, playing fields, village greens. We're focusing on cities, but we do really also want to get data from smaller built-up areas. We don't have a minimum green space size because particularly in villages, some of these green spaces are minute and we really don't want to deter people from taking part. But we have got a maximum size of 75 hectares so that it is manageable to cover within 1 to 2 hours. And larger sites such as Richmond Park in London have been split into around 10 green spaces so that they are manageable. And these are green spaces within or next to built-up areas. So our green space map is available on our website currently, so you can access that through our Taking Part page or through registering for the project in My BTO. And this has over 26,000 green spaces which have been mapped from open source data sets. But there are still massive gaps in this, so I'm based in Thetford, which is a very small town. And I think there were about 4 or 5 green spaces on there, and one of my colleagues added in about 7, which for some reason weren't already in there. So there are loads of green spaces we're missing, and we're really keen to get those added to the map, and that will be open throughout the project. So we really welcome your suggestions. There is also, until the project starts, the feature to amend green spaces. So this is to tell us where the boundaries are not quite right, whether we've got a weird name for a green space, because a lot of them have numbers after them, which aren't the official names. and to also tell us whether a green space is not publicly accessible. So many of these, since the data was created, are now under different ownership, so we don't really want people to go to these sites. So that is also a feature on the map. In terms of outputs, I'm just going to go into this briefly. So because we're going to be including a range of different stakeholders, we want a range of outputs. So that includes scientific papers, so this is going to help that continued research in this field, and this is going to be targeted as well at other biodiversity organisations and maybe that higher level management. But one of our key outputs is an interactive map. We really want to make sure that people's contribution to the project doesn't stop with giving us or helping us collect the data. We want them to really be able to see what the information they've shared with us has potentially contributed to. So we want to show an interactive map which will allow people to view the results for their green space and the suggestions for their green space at a green space level, a local level, a regional level, and also potentially even at a national scale. So using an interactive map will allow us to do this. And we're also looking currently looking into our data sharing. Again, we want to make this data available to people who've contributed it. So we're just currently looking at how we're going to do that, but we of course want to make it available to people. So just to look at engagement briefly, so we're collaborating with 5 organisations currently. So first of all, I'll mention Fields in Trust and the Lands Trust. So Fields in Trust are a charity that looks to protect parks, and they've currently protected over 3,000 parks in the UK in perpetuity. And the Land Trust looks into park management, particularly in new developments. And they have a really great scheme, which is the Green Angels, where they provide free management training to the Green Angels team so that they're empowered to carry out management in their own green spaces. We're also partnering with the Durrell Institute at the University of Kent on BioWell. So this is going to be included in our app, and it's part of that key aim of finding out the importance of green spaces for people. So this looks to quantify the effect of biodiversity on people's well-being. And this is specifically going to be focused on bird diversity in green spaces. So we're really excited to include that questionnaire in our app. And we're also partnering with the West Suffolk Hospital, which are doing an amazing job of promoting the project to their staff and patients. And Sense, my colleague Daniel Johnson, who's our engagement officer, has partnered with Sense on this sensory bird walk pack, which is a great way of allowing people to connect with the project, even if they aren't directly contributing data to the project. So we're really excited about those partnerships. So I'm nearly there. So how can you help? We'd be really keen for you to share this project with your network, share our resources, any social media posts. And if you get in touch with us as well, we can always provide some further information for you to share. We have our newsletter, which is the best place to stay up to date on the project. And we have only one more coming out before the project launch, but we will be carrying that on throughout the project. And this is a really, really, really useful resource to make sure you're aware of when things are happening. You can take part in the project. Registration is open. The project, again, starts on the 1st of April, but you can register now through MyBTO and also have a look at that map and add any green spaces that you see that are missing. And we really welcome your ideas and feedback. There is a large chance that we will be repeating this project next year. So we'd really appreciate your ideas and feedback. So just finally, I wanted to talk about Dennis. So Dennis Smith was a long-term BTO member. And thanks to his generous gift and will donation, this project is able to take place. So Dennis carried out a huge amount of research on house sparrows, and he chose this species because it was something he could see down the road, which is a perfect fit for birds in green spaces, because we want people to get into these spaces that are on their doorstep and see what they might have been overlooking for quite a long time. And Dennis was also a real champion for young people, getting young people into science. And again, with this project, we're really keen to get new audiences involved in BTO's work and in citizen science more widely. So we're really, really grateful for this contribution. And thank you very much for listening. I hope that wasn't too much information.
Thank you very much, Jess. Probably take some questions. If anyone has a question they'd like to ask Jess, then please stick your hand up. I've got one, which is the app ready to download now?
It is not quite ready. It is almost there, but we will put the word out as soon as it's ready.
Yeah.
But we're going to get the guidance up on our website soon. But if anyone wants to have a look after, I'm very happy to show them how it works.
Yeah. Question there?
Yeah, excellent presentation. And I was also wondering, is there the BioWell, the organisation that you're partnering with on this project, so will they be doing any sort of scientific studies on the impacts of nature and green spaces on mental health specifically, and are they looking at specific mental health problems, or is it just general well-being?
So I know they will be. I don't know a massive amount about the analysis. I'd say that's something that my colleague has been probably working on more, but if you want to drop me an email, I'll be happy to get back to you with some more information on that.
Yep.
You've developed the U app, which will be great for people that haven't been involved in surveys before. But for those of us that already use BirdTrack, can we use BirdTrack, or will we need to use both?
So for this survey, we are only going to be using the data collected with the Greenspaces app. However, we will be providing our data to BirdTrack afterwards. The reason we can't do it the other way around is in a large part due to the sheer number of green spaces that we've included in our app that aren't included in BirdTrack, and also, just some other sort of features, I guess, that wouldn't allow it to work the other way around. But we will be giving our data to BirdTrack. However, if you want to collect the data with both at the same time, so if you're already collecting data for your green space with BirdTrack and you don't want to stop, please continue doing that. We would just ask that for the project, the data does need to be collected with our Greenspaces app.
Oh, another question.
Does that mean it's wrong to collect the same data with both?
We would,
because then you end up counting them twice.
it's not going to be a huge problem for kind of duplication on our end, just because I think the scale of the amount of data that we're going to be collecting through both is going to be quite small. But yeah, I'd say if you're happy to just collect data with Birds and Greenspaces app for the duration of the project, we will be giving our data to BirdTrack afterwards. But if you'd rather kind of do both, that's fine too.
Can I ask, will there be an option to collect information about non-birds, other wildlife?
Not in this project.
No, that's fine.
So we just tried to keep, just because we've tried to keep it very simple, but BirdTrack does accept this other non-avian data as well. So.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Any more questions? No. Well, thank you ever so much. You come all the way from Thetford, so thanks for doing that, and that's a fantastic project. So
thank you very much.
Get involved. Yeah. Thank you.